Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Season 2 of The War Within is rolling right around the corner in just a handful of days. And for the brand new season, when it comes to new delve content, new dungeons, raids, and a higher increase of difficulty that will require for you to get a bit of gear, now is your final opportunity to catch up. And there's actually very efficient ways that you can catch up literally days before the update goes live. You don't want to be walking into Season 2 just getting absolutely blasted by all of the enemies and tough mobs within some of the higher end dungeons. You're looking to get yourself tier 8 and even tier 11 delves done so you can start getting Gilded Crest as quickly as possible. And getting a little bit of gear ahead of that can definitely help you be a little bit more safe, secure, and perform a bit better when you're trying to dive into some of the more difficult content early on for some of the best gear upgrades available. So in today's video, I want to go over some of the different ways that you can use current currencies as well as world events in order to catch up all of your old characters with veteran track gear for season 2, starting at 626 item level, but also a bunch of easy to make crafted pieces at 629 item level, which will at least get you started and better prepared to dive into some of the more difficult content and at least have the gear so that you're not getting absolutely plastered by every single enemy that you face. As always, if you guys want to see more regular 11.1 updates, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So most of the efficient gearing and actual good gearing will start once season 2 begins, but if you're still behind and are looking to catch up, just so when you're diving into Mythic Zero dungeons, early raids, early delves, and are just not struggling immediately, you have a couple of days over the weekend to just get a bunch of gear very easily and very quickly. The first one being, and this one you have to do carefully because you could definitely screw it up. I did it with multiple alts until I did it correctly, but you can get a bunch of veteran track pieces that are season 2 gear from some of the weekly events. So you're talking about any of the weekly events, like the big weekly events that you have around the table, whether we're looking at potentially the archives, which can give you weekly events. You're looking at the weekly event like with Faerun with the Call of the World Soul, or any of the actual weekly events within the game. So within the Isle of Dorn, normally there would be Theater. For some reason, Theater is not showing up. We got the Ringing Deeps, the Awakening Machine event, Hollowfall Light event with the Spreading Light. In Ashkahed, I believe would be linked to one of the leaders of the faction of Weaver's Lair or the Severed Threats faction. Now, the first 2 boxes will give you veteran track gear, and technically there's also other events within Undermine that can give you veteran track gear. However, a lot of these are actually not working as intended, or at least not working as they should be, because if you end up delving too early into the Undermine, for some reason the weekly events from Undermine or any of the events having to do with Undermine will bug out your weeklies, at least this week specifically, and they'll count for 2 of these boxes instead of 1, even if you just got 1 item, which means the first box you'll open, you'll be happy with some good loot. Maybe it'll be something that's a veteran track that's a weapon upgrade or a piece of gear, or maybe a really good trinket from this new season, maybe with a bonus effect that's pretty good early on. But then the second one, because you open an item that has linked with Undermine, for some reason the other item will just be like Blues Adventure gear instead of a veteran track. So be very careful and just avoid Undermine for any of the weeklies. Just do some of the weeklies out in the open world. Iron Castle that is outside of any of the Undermine zones. And this way you can get yourself 2 purples, and as long as you do it very carefully, just avoid Undermine when doing the weeklies. Get those done on your ults first in the outdoor Castlegar areas outside of the new Goblin Zone, and then go back to the Goblin Zone for any supplemental currencies or any potential adventure gear or adventure track gear that you might be able to get out of it if you need additional items. But this way you can get 2 veteran track pieces on a character, and I did this so many times wrongly on all my ults to try to test this properly until I got it correctly, just to make sure that you don't miss out on your veteran track pieces during week 1, or rather before season 2 launches. Now, another way that you can get veteran track gear is actually from the brand new reputation with the Cartels of Undermine. If you unlock Renowned Track 7, which seems like a lot at first, it seems like a lot of people are hovering around 5 or 6, but if you do all of the side quests within the Undermine, do the main storyline of Undermine, and then do some of the world quests in there, plus if you want to go to the auction house, you can get the contract for the Undermine cartels, so you can get a little bit extra renown every time you complete a world quest. Reaching Renown 7 is generally pretty easy. and they'll let you buy veteran track boots from the vendor themselves. And these are decent, as they have one for cloth, mail, leather, and plate, and they adjust to your class and specs. So strength, intellect, agility, anything you need, they will adjust on their own. They were bugging for a little bit for plate classes that were giving them only intellect for a bit. That seems to have been fixed as of recently. And they will only set you back a few of the resonant crystals, which you collect pretty easily out in the open world. Although sadly, as of recently, the transfer button has been disabled, so you may need to do some open world activities to get those naturally on the character before you can properly buy them. But that item is going to give you yet another veteran track piece, so if you do it correctly with the weeklies and this from the Conquest of the Renowned vendor, you're looking at potentially picking up 3 626 item pieces that can be further upgraded into the 640s region, which at least get you kind of started if you're looking to catch up. And the last one to catch up is about crafting 629 item level crafted pieces just by collecting a bunch of weathered undermine crests from this week and then converting them into crafting crests and then getting a crafter for leatherworking, blacksmithing, or tailoring to craft you a bunch of items. Or they could be things like weapons or things like accessories like neck or rings or anything like that. And they're actually really easy to craft. But first you got to get the crests. Now at first it sounds like, man, getting 90 weather crests, that seems like a lot in this new season, but it's actually quite easy. A lot of players recommend the easiest task to collect weather crests and to cap out on them in like 5-ish minutes, which I thought was ridiculous at first until I tried it, is by flying around the zone that currently has radiant echoes active for that region, which changes periodically. I believe it changes every single day. And you can usually find this radiant echoes over in the events tab. Over on the live realms, at least for NA, right now it is Isle of Dorn. And all you have to do is collect a bunch of these floating orbs all around the open world, and they grant you a few of the resonant crystals, but also have a chance to drop weather crests, sometimes a little, sometimes in big bulks of them, which is what I was surprised by. But all you do is just fly around, collect these, and the zones for these crystal or these orbs will rotate once a day, so they can only be active in a single zone at a time. And if you check your events tab in the map, usually will tell you exactly where they are active. They'll either be available within one of the 4 original zones of Kaz Algar, as you won't really be able to fly around, collect them in Undermine since you can fly in the Undermine area. But when you just fly around, you get a bunch of them very quickly. This is what a lot of players recommend as the easiest activity, and initially I thought that maybe dungeons or weekly objectives or even doing delves might be quicker, but no, this actually ends up being the best and the fastest activity to cap out on your weather crests, because for some reason it could just drop you big bonuses of those things. During one of those orbs that I flew through, I got like 16 weather crests in a single orb. And that made the whole grind, or quote-unquote grind, much quicker, much easier to do. And you really can do this whole thing get capped out in 5 minutes of just flying around, you know, trying to see if you can get like some weather crests, but flying through those resonant orbs scattered all throughout any one of the 4 original zones. And it's ridiculously easy to do, and it's very quick. But also you can collect crests and valor stones and rewards from any of the faction quartermasters if you haven't done so on any one of your old characters. For example, you probably already visited the quartermasters on your main character, but your old, since you leveled later in the season, probably didn't do so. And if you go visit them now, they'll actually give you season 2 rewards instead of season 1 rewards. So valor stones for season 2, crests for season 2, and that can be a bit of weather crests and carve crests that are actually outside of the cap, so it'll be additional currency that you normally wouldn't be playing into. But once you collect all of your weather crests, which is 90 this week, which is pretty easy to cap out just by flying around, then you gotta convert 30 of them into a crest upgrade for blue crafted basic gear. And they changed up the crest vendors so now you can trade those things directly. You don't need to get an enchanter to create those for you, so it skips out that step. You just trade them directly, and now you get an item that can be imbued with base craft pieces. You're not gonna be crafting purples that need a spark in order to be imbued with this crafted crest. Instead, you're crafting on basic blue gear, something that everybody who dives into professions can craft and basically can create pretty easily with very little skill requirement needed in order to be able to craft some of these items. And just upgrading and going for like higher rank 2, or in some cases maybe rank 3 enchants or materials rather, you can actually craft these pieces at rank 5 guaranteed really easily. It doesn't require high skill or a lot of grinding to do, and just about any player can make these items, which can allow you to create some 6 29 item level pieces of gear immediately. So basically getting you pretty close to 630s before the Season 2 content arrives, which is as close enough an item level that you can get to some of the best gear from the mythic track of Season 1. It is the gear you're going to be replacing though, so it's not mandatory, but if you're someone who's looking to, dive into delves and try to make your way to tier 8s and tier 11s, having at least some decent gear, it means you're not going to get obliterated once you get into some of the more difficult delves. Same thing can be said in dungeons. It allows you to at least push up to some of the higher tier dungeons without getting absolutely shellacked by some of the bosses and enemy mechanics. So any item level you can get right now, especially if it takes very little effort, very little time commitment, can definitely help you along the way when it comes to getting into Season 2 content as quickly and effectively as possible. And all of these activities can be done in a very little time that you can do it on multiple alt characters to help them catch up with some decent items really quickly. As always though, I do want to thank you guys all so much for watching and hope you guys did enjoy this quick little update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. Also, join our Discord community, probably the best place to discuss all of the newest shadiest, which we'll probably see more of for the patch 11.1. I'm sure we'll be seeing some tuning as the season officially goes live. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.